What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today we are kicking off the weekend of September 19th with a big one, and first album officially from this band in 5 years. We are talking about the latest offering from Paradise Lost, Ascension. This comes out on September 19th, this time on Nuclear Blast Records. Album number 17, if you don't count the Icon 30 album they did a couple of years ago, which was essentially a re-recording of Icon, which honestly didn't need to happen, honestly. So if you don't count that, this is their 17th album overall. And I've been a mild fan of this band. Like, I have a few of their albums. I was always a bigger fan of, like, the heavy Death Doom oriented stuff. So mainly, like, the debut, Lost Paradise, where that was just evil, heavy, chuggy, and gross and doomy. But of course I did like stuff from, Gothic, Icon, and especially Draconian Times. Like, that album is monumental for Gothic metal as a whole. But of course, like, me checking out this band on a more head-on basis has been kind of spotty, but I'm glad that I'm here to talk about a brand new release. And, well, for those who don't know, British metal legends, they're pioneers of both Death Doom and Gothic metal as well, because, well, you got an amazing vocalist in Nick Holmes in there who does amazing, like, death metal vocal work. Of course, he's still currently in Bloodbath. And then, of course, Greg McIntosh, awesome guitarist in terms of riffs and leads. But yeah, I was just looking forward to checking this one out, considering, like, their last few albums have been getting, like, a lot of, like, rave reviews from metalheads and critics. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this one a shot, and I just have one word to say: wowzers. We kick things off with Serpent on the Cross, which immediately starts off with these, like, somber, atonal melodies. And then it just really gets down to the doom, like the riffing, the rhythms, very, very doomy. And these, like, soaring melodies of sadness really come through. And then all of a sudden you get into this, like, almost classic heavy metal gallop. Like, there's quite a lot of spots across the board on this album where you get, like, spots of, like, classic heavy metal, which, to my recollection, was not something I was familiar with when it comes to Paradise Lost songs. I did not expect to, out of nowhere, hear, like, a classic heavy metal gallop. And hell, that brings me up to talking about the production. Greg produced it, but got some mixing help from Lawrence McCrory. McRory. That's right, Lawrence McRory, who, of course, has done production work for Leak and bunch of other Swedish bands. He did the mixing on here, and you can tell it has a bit of, like, a raw sound to it, but it's well mixed. Hell, even the snare just sounds like a shotgun going off, which is really cool. But with this opening track, you get, like, it's pretty much all growl vocals, like all growling vocals from Nick. But throughout the rest of the album, you get songs where it's just all cleans, or you get the nice vocal flip that Nick does, not only in terms of, like, his standard cleans, but I'll just go ahead and say, and I remembered hearing this in songs on Icon and Draconian Times, Nick Holmes, whenever he gets into, like, a gritty, gruff, clean vocal, he very much reminds me a lot of James Hetfield from Metallica. And any vocalist that has a Hetfieldism in their voice, I immediately latch on to. So people like Matt Heafy, Winter Sorg, Jens Kidman back in the first Meshuggah album, like, stuff like that I really latch on to, because personally, James Hetfield's my favorite vocalist of all time. I'm not saying he's the best, I'm saying he's my personal favorite because I like his style a lot. So Nick Holmes nails the Hetfieldisms to a T, and those Hetfieldisms show up on tracks like Silence Like the Grave, Deluvium, Sirens, and Deceivers. Like, those 4 songs, Nick's vocals get downright Hetfield-esque. But when it comes to his other types of clean vocals, he's very tuneful and soothing, like very much like a gothic rock vocalist at times. And speaking of gothic moments, you get plenty of gothic touches, but most particularly, I would say in the song Tyrant's Serenade. Like that song in particular, with like the riff writing and the atmosphere, definitely touches on the gothic side of their sound the most. And for the most part, it's clean vocals, but you still get some awesome chugs. Huge chorus. Like, you do get some pretty cool choruses across the board on this entire album. But I love how you get these, like, somber melodic progressions to just add a little more darkness and depth to the song. And then, speaking of soaring melodic progressions and soaring melodies, you get plenty of that in the track Silence Like the Grave. But man, it does get into some like awesome chug and heft. But when it gets into like faster riffing, very much reminds me of Metallica. And again, the Hetfield vocals come in at full force. And then you even get into songs like Lay a Wreath Upon the World, where it starts off on a dark, sad note with the acoustic guitars, Nick's low, soothing, clean vocals. And then you suddenly get this like big female wail into a nice build, and you get this push and pull dynamic between the somber softness and the hefty big riffs that follow. And then Diluvium, somber harmonies. Like, you do get plenty of great harmonies on this album when it comes down to the guitar work. But with Diluvium, it goes perfectly into like doomy melodies and chug. But then we get back to the classic heavy metal moments, and dare I say, it reminds me a little bit of Iron Maiden, like almost like a gothic, heavier, doomy Iron Maiden a little bit. Savage Days, this one for the most part focuses on like the darkness, like sinister melodies galore, and like Nick's cleans get even lower, and it is doomy as all get out. Same goes with Sirens. Like, you get like a soaring melody on top of like a big doomy progression, but you get back to Metallica riffs because they get a little bit chunkier and a little heavier and even at times a little faster. And then Deceivers, that song brings in more groove. Like, it starts off on a groovier note with melodic touches back to classic heavy metal. And then the backtrack to one of the biggest songs on the album, the longest track of the album, Salvation, start off with bells and chimes to just add a little bit more to that gothic, dreary atmosphere. And then you get into these like dark harmonies and it builds up nicely. It's like the song itself, like the feeling behind it is very like Typo Negative-esque, but a lot of these like death doom melodies, I get reminded a lot of Hooded Menace on this track. Like, this almost feels like Typo Negative meets Hooded Menace with that Paradise Lost formula to it. But again, the chorus is big, and Nick's belting his voice out on this track too. But then we get to the closer, The Precipice. Piano, it's somber, it's dark, it's sinister. You get more atonal riffs coming back. And it's mostly like a big lumbering song. Like, it lumbers along very nicely. And I haven't even talked about the lead work. Lead work on this album's really solid. Like, Greg showcasing that he's a very underrated lead player and an underrated riff writer. Like, he can come up with some awesome riffs, and you get plenty of that on here. Galore as it can get. Now, as far as any negatives go, I really don't have anything to really complain about, really at all. So overall, I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. I am so close to giving this a 5. I really, really liked this album. This is almost, in my opinion, what the last Swallow the Sun should have sounded like. Instead of sounding overproduced and all this stuff, like, at least production-wise, this is what Shining by Swallow the Sun should have sounded like. But we're talking about Paradise Lost here. This is just yet another great album to one of the best British metal bands of all time. So if you're a fan of Paradise Lost, chances are you're already going to dig it. But for those who aren't as familiar, I would say if you like Typo Negative, My Dying Bride, Metallica, hell, I'll even throw in Iron Maiden a little bit because you do get some Maiden moments on here. I'd say check this out. This is some unbelievably good music. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching, keep your horns high, and your dreams wet.